Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract money naturally, while others live struggling to survive? Could there be an invisible cause behind financial lack? Thomas Troward said that scarcity is not a material problem, but a mental one, and that until the true origin is understood, any attempt to prosper will be merely a temporary patch. Troward affirmed that money is not the cause of our results, but the symptom of what the mind believes to be possible. He explained that scarcity is born when a person breaks contact with the creative source and begins to depend only on human effort. In this state of separation, fear takes control, and where there is fear, the flow blocks. Life stops responding to trust and begins responding to tension. Therefore, the first step to reversing the lack of money is not to work more, but to reconnect with the origin of abundance. Thomas Troward taught that the human mind is the invisible mold of financial reality. Nothing happens outside that has not first happened inside. That's why he said that the true cause of lack of money is the belief in limitation, the idea that good is scarce, distant, or difficult to reach. This belief creates a vibrational barrier between the mind and the flow of abundance, making money always seem to escape no matter how much effort is made. Troward explained that the universe is essentially abundant. There is no lack in nature, only circulation and balance. Scarcity arises when the mind, out of fear, interrupts the natural movement of giving and receiving. The thought, "there is not enough," is like a silent order to the subconscious to restrict the flow. And the subconscious, faithful executor, transforms this order into concrete circumstances. Unexpected bills, lost opportunities, doors that don't open. He said that the mind is not punished for believing in lack, it is obeyed. The universe does not judge, it only responds. Thus, whoever mentally repeats, "I cannot, I don't have, it's impossible," is molding their own financial experience according to these words. The good news, Troward taught, is that the opposite is also true. When the mind decides to believe in abundance, the universe, by law, begins to reorganize everything around to reflect this new belief. Thomas Troward said that most people live trying to solve in the physical world a problem that was born in the mind. They work more, save, plan, and still the money seems insufficient. This happens because they are acting in the field of effect, while the cause remains unchanged. The visible is only the echo of the invisible, Troward said. Changing the appearance without changing the cause is like trying to warm a room by blowing on the thermometer. He explained that the mind is the first substance of creation. Everything that exists is the result of a mental pattern sustained with emotion and faith. If the pattern is fear, the result will be limitation. If the pattern is trust, the result will be prosperity. Therefore, Troward insisted that the cause of scarcity is not in the salary, the government, or circumstances. It is in the consciousness of separation. When the mind believes it needs to fight to survive, it creates resistance, and resistance interrupts the natural flow of abundance. But when the person begins to align with mental law, they understand that money is not earned, it is allowed. It flows to the extent that the mind authorizes it. Troward said that the universe is like a mirror. It never denies, it only reflects. And when the reflection shows lack, the invitation is clear. Change your thought and the reflection will change with it. Thomas Troward taught that there are only two mental states, contraction and expansion. The contracted mind lives in the frequency of fear, believing it needs to defend itself, economize, and protect itself. It sees money as something scarce, and each expenditure seems like a loss. The expanded mind, on the contrary, trusts in the flow of life. It understands that the universe is inexhaustible and that money is just one of the many forms through which good manifests. Troward explained that fear is like an invisible wall. It blocks the passage of creative energy and makes the person repeat the same limited results. While the mind believes it needs to hold on, the law cannot act, because abundance only moves where there is freedom. Therefore, the cure for lack of money does not come from accumulation, but from expansion, from the feeling of inner security that allows the flow. He compared the process to breathing. Inhaling represents receiving. Exhaling represents giving. When someone tries to inhale all the time, they suffocate. The same happens with money. Whoever tries only to accumulate makes the flow sick. Healthy prosperity is born from the balance between receiving and sharing. Troward said that the mind that trusts breathes freely, and it is this trust that attracts sustenance. Fear contracts, but faith expands, and everything that is expanded prospers. Thomas Troward affirmed that scarcity persists not because money is lacking, but because inner permission to receive it is lacking. He said that the human mind only accepts what it believes it deserves, and that the subconscious is incapable of contradicting the image a person has of themselves. Whoever feels unworthy or guilty about prosperity without realizing it closes the door through which good would enter. The universe is generous but can only deliver to the point where the mind allows. He explained that many carry, since childhood, distorted ideas about money. Phrases like "money is dirty," "it's difficult to be rich and spiritual," or "those who have much exploit others," become mental decrees that the subconscious fulfills to the letter. These beliefs create an internal conflict. The person wants to prosper but feels guilt at the same time. And this conflict makes the flow oscillate. Money arrives but doesn't stay. For Troward, the cure begins in the feeling of worthiness. He recommended a simple practice. Look at yourself in the mirror, breathe deeply, and affirm, "I deserve good in all its forms. Wealth is a natural expression of life." This phrase, repeated with sincere emotion, re-educates the subconscious to accept the flow of abundance without resistance. Gradually, the fear of receiving is replaced by the joy of cooperating with the universe. And when worthiness is restored, money stops being a rare visitor and becomes a constant resident of consciousness. Thomas Troward said that words are instruments of creative power. Each phrase said about money is a command that the subconscious transforms into reality. When someone repeats "it's difficult," "there's never enough left," "money slips through my hands," they are unknowingly sending direct orders to the universe for these situations to continue. The subconscious doesn't understand irony, only vibration, and it obeys with perfection. Troward taught that the mind acts like a sensitive mirror. Everything that is affirmed with emotion returns as experience. Therefore, he recommended replacing negative phrases with conscious affirmations of prosperity. Saying, "Money serves me with joy. There is always more coming. I live in the flow of abundance" is not self-deception, it is vibrational re-education. Conscious repetition engraves new tracks in the subconscious, and energy begins to obey the new order. He explained that each word is a seed, and that the subconscious is the fertile soil that never refuses planting. The harvest, however, depends on constancy. Just as a tree is not born in a day, the new financial pattern requires daily care. Every time you choose words of trust instead of fear, you are feeding the tree of prosperity. And when it flourishes, the results are inevitable, because money always follows the direction of the dominant word. Thomas Troward affirmed that there are no poor people but minds that have not yet awakened to abundance. He said that the difference between the rich mind and the poor mind is in the direction of thought, not in the amount of money. The poor mind thinks, "What can I lose?" The rich mind thinks, "What can I create?" This simple difference changes the entire result, because the universe responds to the dominant intention, and the intention of the rich mind is always expansion. Troward explained that the poor mind lives reacting to circumstances, while the rich mind creates new circumstances from consciousness. When something goes wrong, the contracted mind blames the world. The expanded mind looks inward and asks, "What idea within me is creating this?" This self-responsibility is what makes it powerful. It understands that everything starts from the invisible cause, and therefore, instead of fighting with the effects, it transforms them through inner vibration. He said that the true rich person is one who can lose everything and still know they can create again. Because the source of wealth is not in the bank account, it is in the mind trained to produce ideas, solutions, and opportunities. Troward called this essential wealth, the state in which a person feels complete regardless of appearances. And paradoxically, it is this feeling of fullness that attracts even more prosperity, because the universe always delivers more of what the mind already recognizes as its own. Thomas Troward taught that faith is the force that connects the invisible to the visible. He explained that money does not arise by chance, but is attracted by the firm confidence that good is already available. Doubt, on the other hand, is like a shadow that interrupts the flow. While there is hesitation, the subconscious does not receive clear orders. But when faith is total, the mind sends a direct command to the universal substance, and the universe, obedient, responds. Troward said that faith is not hope, It is emotional certainty. To hope for something is to admit that it is still lacking. To have faith is to know that it already exists, just awaiting manifestation. Therefore, the daily exercise is to sustain the vision of abundance, even when circumstances still show scarcity. This coherence between thought and emotion reprograms the subconscious and dissolves the old pattern of lack. The mind learns that good is not future, it is continuous present. He reminded that true faith is silent, constant, and confident. It doesn't need proof because it is already at peace with the law. The person who lives in this state does not fear bills, deadlines, or crises because they know that the source of supply is infinite. When this conviction is established, money begins to flow naturally. It is not a miracle, it is mental law in action. Faith removes fear, and where fear disappears, abundance manifests with freedom. Thomas Troward affirmed that gratitude is the most powerful accelerator of prosperity. He said that the grateful mind vibrates in complete harmony with the universal flow, and that money, being an expression of this flow, is irresistibly attracted to it. While the mind that complains closes the doors, the mind that gives thanks opens them wide. Gratitude is not a polite gesture, it is a creative state. When you feel sincerely blessed by what you already have, you are declaring to the universe, I recognize abundance and I am ready for more. Troward explained that gratitude dissolves fear because it removes focus from lack and places it on presence. Attention, he said, is the food of reality. When you focus on what is lacking, you feed scarcity. When you focus on what already exists, you amplify abundance. The grateful mind does not ignore challenges, but transcends them, because it already knows that good is working behind the scenes. He recommended what he called silent prayer, a daily moment to recognize visible and invisible blessings, to give thanks for each coin, for each opportunity, for each sign of progress. This simple act changes the emotional frequency and creates a magnetic field of prosperity. Troward said, gratitude is the seal of one who has understood the law, and whoever understands the law does not need to force money to come, because the very vibration of gratitude invites it to remain. Thomas Troward taught that true wealth is not something to be acquired, but something to be recognized. He said that money, opportunities, and resources are merely reflections of the consciousness of abundance already existing within each being. Therefore, lack is not absence of resources, it is absence of perception. The limited mind sees scarcity, the expanded mind sees possibilities. The secret is to live abundance internally, until the external world reorganizes to reflect this state. Troward affirmed that prosperity is a way of being, not a passing event. While the mind seeks to enrich, it still vibrates in lack. But when it knows it is already rich in ideas, talents, vitality, and purpose, the universe hastens to confirm this identity. Everything begins to move according to the new vibration. He said, the universe does not create what you desire, but what you are. This is the key to definitive transformation, to be before having. To live as someone who already trusts in divine supply, who spends with serenity and receives with gratitude. When the feeling of abundance becomes natural, the fear of loss disappears. And when fear goes away, money stops being the center of life and returns to its right place, that of servant. It is at this point that the flow stabilizes and prosperity becomes permanent, because now it is born from consciousness and not from circumstance. Thomas Troward said that the subconscious mind is the vault where all beliefs about money are stored. It does not judge, does not question, and does not interpret. It only obeys what is repeated with emotion. Therefore, scarcity persists when the person speaks of abundance but feels fear, guilt, or doubt. These feelings are the true commands, and the subconscious faithfully fulfills them. Financial reversal, therefore, requires a new emotional programming, an internal language of security, trust, and worthiness. He explained that the subconscious is re-educated by daily repetition of positive images and words. Therefore, Troward recommended affirming with faith and serenity, I live in a rich and generous universe. Good flows to me with ease. Money is my ally in the expression of the divine. These phrases, when felt with real emotion, create new mental grooves that replace the old patterns of fear, and the subconscious, obedient, begins to reorganize external reality to align with this new vibration. Troward said that transformation is not a struggle but a training. Each positive thought is a drop that, day after day, fills the vessel of abundance, until one day, naturally, the overflow happens. And it is at this point that wealth manifests without effort. Because the mind has finally learned what the universe always knew: there is no lack in the whole, and the whole is within you. Thomas Troward said that true financial freedom is born the instant the mind stops seeing money as a problem and begins to see it as a partner. When this happens, all struggle ends, the fear of lack dissolves, anxiety disappears, and life begins to flow naturally again. The person no longer lives trying to attract prosperity, they become prosperity. And the universe, obedient to the dominant consciousness, only confirms what already is. He taught that money is the messenger of inner harmony. If there is scarcity, the messenger is bringing a warning. Something needs to be adjusted in the mind. But when there is peace, trust, and gratitude, money returns with joy because it recognizes the environment of divine order. This is the true reversal of lack, the change from fear consciousness to flow consciousness. The exterior only reflects the healed interior. When you understand this, money stops being the center of worries and becomes an extension of your spiritual balance. You spend with serenity, give with joy, receive with love, and all of life enters into harmony. The same power that created the universe moves within you, sustaining each need, supplying each detail. This is the mind reconciled with the whole, the mind that Troward called the perfect channel of infinite wealth. Abundance is not conquered, it is recognized.